Okay, so I received a message the other day from a person who has a family member that they feel is involved in an abusive relationship, and they were wanting to know how can they help them get out of it. So, first and foremost, thank you so much for your question. It's a valid one, and I think it speaks volumes about your character that you're willing to go to these lengths to help this person get out of it. So, and if anybody else has any, requests for videos or questions, or you want to find out kind of more about narcissism or different types of abuse, you can always contact me. My info is in the description box below. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I'll do my best to help you out in whatever way that I can. So, okay, so how do you help somebody out of an abusive relationship? I think first and foremost, you have to realize with abusive relationships, there's a lot of different dynamics at play. And probably the biggest one is the level of manipulation, the level of brainwashing. So I think it helps people that have never been in these types of situations to think about an abusive relationship, think about an abusive person as a highly manipulative person, because really that's what we're talking about here. These people are very similar, these dynamics really are very similar to cults. So you have this person who's highly manipulative, they're probably very charming, there's something about them that is filling this need within this victim. And so, over time, the victim begins to really take on this manipulative person's spin on reality as truth. And of course, the manipulative person this whole time is creating this relationship with this person. Of course, that's very, very toxic. To the outside world, everybody can see, wow, this is very one-sided. You have this highly manipulative person that's getting away with all of this really dangerous, destructive behavior. You have one person that's getting away with everything, and then you have the other person that's having to constantly forgive and compromise, right? It's very unequal. So that's kind of a really great telltale sign if you're seeing a person that's in an unhealthy dynamic. Another thing to realize, so you're dealing with a person that's brainwashed, basically. They're very manipulated, and this is why what they're saying, this is why what they're doing is not making sense to you, because it doesn't make sense. Because really they have kind of become, they've taken on that abusive person's reality as their own. And of course, the abusive person's reality only makes sense to that abusive person. So how to deprogram a person, because really that's what we're talking about here. So how do you get them out? How do you deprogram them? Well, realize first and foremost, you have to meet people where they are. So when I was first working at the domestic violence shelter, our whole approach to working with victims was to use words like, this is an abusive situation, this is an abuser, you're a victim of domestic violence, right? Well, all of these words are really heavy. And if a person isn't there yet, if they're not registering their relationship as problematic, even if it's, very obviously problematic, even if they're coming to you with bruises and broken bones and this person's drained their account and they've cheated on them dozens of times, if that person's not registering this as abuse, by you saying that it's abusive isn't helping things. If anything, it's doing the exact opposite. They're going to get very defensive, and they're probably going to shut down, and they're going to stop talking to you about this. And that's exactly the last thing that you want to have happen. So these highly manipulative people are already, isolating their victim. They're already creating this dynamic of it's us against the world, right? Nobody else understands our relationship, or all of your friends and family, I don't know what they're filling your head with. They're planting all of this stuff in their brain that that nobody else gets them. And then they need to quit spending time with their friends and family. They need to quit talking to other people about their business, right? This is just their business between the two of them. That's how you can tell when you're dealing with a very manipulative person, if they don't want the victim talking about what's really going on in the relationship. So instead of using words that are very emotionally charged, like victim, abuse, domestic violence, frame it in a way where where the victim is more receptive to hearing words. So listen to how the victim is describing their experience. If they're saying things like, if they're using the words abuse, if they're like, yeah, I'm tired of this abuse, I'm tired of him hitting me, if they are aware of what's going on, go ahead and match that vocabulary. Okay, you're wanting this abuse to stop. How can I help you? What can I do to support you, right? So you can match their terminology. If they're using words like he's cheating, he's lying, and they're kind of not recognizing it as abuse, they're maybe not recognizing it as manipulative, you can kind of slowly guide them to that and say, wow, that behavior sounds really hurtful, or that sounds really frustrating. How do you feel about that? And to kind of draw them out of their shell, get them talking about what's going on, how they're feeling about this situation. Like I said, the abuser is already really shrinking down their world, and there's already a lot of guilt and embarrassment and shame that goes with victims when they're in abusive relationships. And they're getting that too. They're getting that not only from their abuser, but they're getting that from a lot of friends and family and well-intentioned people that are saying, you're nuts, you need to wake up, what is wrong with you, why are you in this relationship, if you keep, he just treats you like a dog and you need to get out of there and you're so stupid and what are you, blind? All of that, it's frustration from people that really care, but it's not helpful, right? So it makes the victim retreat further away from their support system. So what you can do is to really stay calm emotionally. And as a nurse and as a former advocate, as a nurse, we call this nurse face. And so basically what it is you have to prepare yourself to hear anything, because people will tell you the craziest things that are just absolutely mind-boggling and disturbing. So what it is somebody tells you, yes, I've had, horrible things, he's beating me, he's raping me, he's stealing all my money, he's doing all these things, for you to just stay calm and collected and non-emotional and very receptive and very open and caring and compassionate. So you're kind of giving them that space to just talk without judging, without getting defensive, without starting kind of a lynch mob, right? So keeping them talking, having them realize that you're not judging their behavior, you're not judging their partner, that your goal is to just support them and get them to kind of wherever they're at emotionally. On average, it takes a person, a victim, 7 times of leaving, 7 times of really outrageous behavior by their abuser to finally get up the strength and the courage and getting fed up enough to where they actually leave. So too, there's a honeymoon stage to these abusive relationships. So it's a bunch of bad behavior. In narcissism, it's called hoovering. So the person comes back, there's promises of the future, there's promises of change, there's promises of all of this stuff. It's not real. These people are incredibly manipulative, they're incredibly persistent. So the victim probably thinks, and a lot of people probably around the victim also think that this person is sincere, and this time they really mean it. But the reality is they never mean it. So, the victim gets sucked in with all of that love and that attention and compliments and that constant communication. So you can kind of do that with them too. So think about different things, catch them doing things right. Give them sincere compliments, right? So if they're coming to you and they're saying, I'm so embarrassed, this is what's going on, or I don't know what to do, just to say, it takes a lot of strength for you to talk about these things. Or, I'm really impressed with your level of courage to talk about these things. Or, that top looks really nice on you today. Just finding things to let them know that they're loved and appreciated. I think a lot of people get caught up in these relationships because possibly as a child, I know this is going to sound like a bunch of psychobabble, but I think a lot of people get caught up in it because they feel unloved and ignored as a child, and then they get caught up with these people, these cults or these abusive people that either reinforce that dynamic of you're unlovable and I'm going to ignore you and treat you like crap, or I'm going to shower you with all of this love and all of this affection, but it's not sincere. And that's why they keep getting caught up with these people time and time again, as they're trying to fill that void. So if you can help them kind of fill that void and again, help them build their self-esteem, compliment them, that was a fantastic meal you made, or things like that. Now realize that if you're complimenting them around their abusive partner, or I'll just use the word manipulative partner. If you're complimenting them around their manipulative partner, the manipulator is probably not going to like this. They're probably going to get very jealous. They're going to get very possessive. They're going to get very controlling. So it's really because they want to be at the center of this person's universe, and they don't tolerate other people, especially opposite sex people or whatever gender that person's dating or attracted to. Compliments from that person, it's seen as a threat. So just kind of keep that in mind, that when you're talking to somebody or giving them compliments, that it's not going to go over well with their abusive partner, most likely. So this person's going to be most likely defensive and confused. This is a term, and the reason why, okay, so there's this term, it's called cognitive dissonance. And basically what it is it's where the brain is trying to hold two competing beliefs about the same thing at the same time. So it's very confusing. And if you talk to victims that have left abusive relationships, they are so rattled. They really do not know which end is up. So they're so manipulated that they don't know who they are. They don't know what their morals and their values and their likes and dislikes and who they are and who they don't know a lot of things. And it's very, very scary for people when they go through this. Victims often suffer PTSD. There's kind of this dissociative phase where a lot of people, and some people stay in it, where it's kind of a multiple personality kind of thing, dissociative identity issues, where they're trying to piece themselves back together again and figure out what they really think, who they really are. So there's a lot of confusion going on. And so what you can do is you have to kind of slowly turn the light on for them, because it's too much to know that this person that they think is their partner, their spouse, that they probably are thinking this is maybe a good person with bouts of bad behavior, but the reality is the person's highly manipulative. All their behavior is bad, but they just have bouts of good manipulative behavior, right? But of course, everything they do is manipulative. So even their good behavior has an angle, it has a motive for it, but they're not seeing that. So, again, to talk about behavior in terms of this seems kind of manipulative, or this seems very frustrating or hurtful, or, what are you about, and what are you looking for in a relationship, and how are you defining love? Is this the kind of person that you want in your life? And then you can maybe see, depending, if you start feeling that they're getting defensive, because this is what they do when they get defensive, they will start minimizing their person's behavior. They will start justifying their behavior. So minimizing it. Well, it's really not that bad. He only hits me when he drinks. Or he only cheats on me if I don't dress sexy and if I'm not home every night by 6 o'clock. They're minimizing it. And that's kind of justifying it too, right? So he only hits me when he drinks. They deflect it. Well, it's really not his fault. You see, it's the fault of the alcohol. It's the fault of the other woman. It's the fault of stress at work. It's my fault. Maybe I'm not a good partner. Maybe I'm the narcissist. Maybe I'm the crazy partner, right? Because they're so manipulated. They don't know where the real problem is. And of course, they will deny it too. So sometimes this is called gaslighting. This is a term that it's a technique abusers use, where they will do something and then they'll basically say that it never happened, or that it didn't happen that way. And it's, again, very crazy making for the victim. Imagine if you were to say, wow, that's a lovely plant. And I were to say, what plant? Right? And then you're like, well, but, or especially if maybe the next day you were to say, I loved that plant behind you. What kind of plant was that? And I were to say, there was no plant behind me. And then like, no, I wasn't there. I could have sworn that there was like this palm behind you. No, there wasn't. It gets them to question things, and then they start thinking, well, maybe I'm forgetful, or maybe I'm misremembering, and then that really rattles their reality. So to keep communication open with them, to realize that you're going to be dealing with a confused person, to take things slowly, to always make sure that you're offering a safe place for them to talk to you. You can talk to them about a safety plan. You can talk about it in terms of just a plan, not using the word safe, because that can be emotionally charged. And encouraging them, hey, just wanted to let you know, if you ever did decide to leave, you could stay here. We could make that work, and we can find a place. Your pets could stay here. Maybe we could find a place for your pets. We could make this work. If in doubt, down the road, you were to decide that you wanted to leave, you do have a place here. And, just a thought, you could always maybe make copies of important documents like the kids' medications or school records or birth certificates, and you could just leave them here with me if you wanted to, no pressure. And then let that person slowly come around and come to you. So that's what I have on this topic. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, frustrations, ideas for videos, feedback, please let me know. Again, my name is Dana. My contact info is below. I do have a support group on Facebook and a website called narcissistsupport.com. Okay, thanks.